All right, here we go. Let's call the meeting to order tonight. There's no statement?
He'll be here later.
Which one?
You can do the short.
Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by sending notice on December 23rd, 2011 to the Record and the Ridgewood News by positioning on the bulletin board in the lobby of the Borough Hall and filing a notice to the same with the municipal clerk. I would like to remind the public that there are three fire exits in the room. Roll call, please.
Councilwoman Murphy, Councilman Courts,
Here.
Councilman Porco, Councilman McMillan,
Here.
Councilman Bartoloni,
Here.
Councilman Papaleo,
Here.
and Mayor Mascaratolo. No, it's done.
Okay. Why don't we go ahead and do the borough administrative topics? Would be the tax bill stuffers.
Thank you, Mr. Council President. We have provided the Mayor and Council with last year's tax bill stuffer, so my questions for the Council are, would you like to do a tax bill stuffer again this year? And if so, do you have any changes or comments to make on what we did last year? We will update it with all new information and provide that to you before it would go out. We would like to get this done relatively soon, as we'll be sending tax bills out by the end of June.
What was the success last year? Was it easy to do it last year? Was it just a regular format? Or?
Yeah, we've had this format, for several years now. It breaks down the tax dollars into the different portions that are spent on municipal operations, the library, the school districts, the county operations, and open space. It shows how the tax dollar is distributed. Makes a couple of other points, with regard to the tax rate.
All right. Any questions?
No, I saw it. I thought it was acceptable.
Any motions?
So move. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
It's very
Thank
empty.
you. We'll provide an
What was that?
update.
It feels very empty. Yeah.
I can move my mayor chair over there. For discussion tonight, we have the generator ordinance. John, you coming up with that, or what are we doing with that?
Sam Sebastian, the borough attorney, has provided us with an
I gave you an
updated
updated ordinance. I'll tell you what I did. Basically, it was premised upon the consensus that we developed the last time. I think most people felt that if there's a electrical outage, that the homeowner should be permitted to turn on his generator without having a declared emergency. So what I did is I eliminated all references to declared emergency as being a trigger to the use of these generators, especially the portable or temporary generators. And essentially, that's the only revision I made. I took that out, so you'll see it on page 2 in paragraph A. I deleted the reference to even the number of hours and also the suspension of the noise ordinance. I took all that out and basically allow people to use their generator. I think this is important because I think more important than anything else, I think the placement of the generator is very, very important. And I think at least those that are permanent generators, as I indicated, I spoke to Rose. I think we've had to date about 121 permits for generators. And so these seem to be something that's going to continue to grow with this outages being a part of our life. So I think it's important as far as the placement of permanent generators and the decibel levels of those generators. And pretty much that's all I added to this ordinance.
Basically, just a change in the ordinance.
Allowing electrical outages and emergency events for the use of these generators.
All right.
Because I would suspect anybody who's putting a permanent generator in is going to have an automatic transfer switch. So they're not going to go physically turn it on.
That's right.
So they can't control it.
Exactly. That's the other issue,
But
because most of
in
them...
terms of location and noise, I think the portable generators have a bigger impact than
They do,
than the permanent ones.
no doubt about it.
And I still have some, I tried to get some information, I don't have it with me, about, I know there's some code issues about separation from generator sides to building walls. I spoke actually to a mechanical engineer today, and he also said there's some code, and I don't know, haven't been able to confirm it, something about fire rating. If the wall has to have a certain fire rating, or it has to have a certain separation distance for a permanent generator. All I'm getting at is that this 48 inches may not be workable for a permanent generator, have the separation distance required, have access between the generator and the building.
wall.
So I just think we need a little more
Well, do you want...
guidance on the installations to make sure that we're not going to have people coming in for variances to
Yeah.
they're
Well, that's the whole
located.
thing. They're calling for that 48 inches on there?
Well,
Well,
that's
that's
just
what
40,
it's-
that's what
yeah.
it's, I said, I don't know if that's
Well,
a,
what the effort here was, again, so to have some type of control on the noise level, so you're not extending or putting it way into the side yard, away from the building. Pretty much envisioning something similar to where you have your compressors if you have a central air conditioning unit. I am not sure if there is, it was never, I had Mark Skirbis look at this, but nevertheless, maybe there may be an issue here, but...
I would have, I don't know who does our electrical plan review, and maybe talk to them.
If they have information on that, I think...
Yeah. You took out the actual decibel, oh no, you still have
No, I
66.
still have
Again, I mean,
66.
what does that mean? At the property line, who's going to measure it, who's going to enforce it?
I think it's a spec issue, so that, when you purchase a generator, I think that it would indicate the
Yeah,
decibel levels in the spec.
but what I saw was some of these, when they specify 66 decibels, they're saying it's 23 feet or 25 feet from the generator. It's not proximate to it. So...
I'm not sure of that, I can't honestly say. If we have more information, I could try to do some research.
I can send you a couple cut sheets and you can see what I had, and...
Yeah, I'd like to get some recommendations on it, so if you have something and you think we need to...
So I just don't want to get in something where we're regulating something and then making it unworkable for people. I don't think we should make it hard for people to have emergency generators. We have a lot of problems with the grid in this town, unrelated to storms.
Yeah.
So I just want to make sure, like I said, if somebody wants one, we're not having the zoning board hearing 15 applications because
No,
they're
that
looking for
goes without
variances for
saying.
side yards for generators.
So what do you want to do? You want, with reference to paragraph B, this would be 416-34-4, so B, it says
I
48
think
inches from...
we just need to
side.
clarify the code issues and some just practical considerations for B and C and making sure that whatever we put in here is doable.
I could talk to Mark Skirbis too, he may have more information on it. You want me to do that? And
Yes,
then
I would,
also
suggest,
the
yeah.
fire code issue as in terms of the distance from any existing structure. So then
For
we
gas
can-
generators, we know that was specific to gas generators.
So this would be really a fire code issue you're talking about?
Well, there's electrical code issues
Fire
also.
code or electrical code issue.
Because the other issue becomes then...
Who's our electrical code officer, subcode
I
official?
have to look it up, I'm sorry.
Not a problem.
Because the other problem is then if you have,
Lavascio?
I don't know who's here, I don't know.
if you're requiring, say, a 4-foot pad for, say, a 10 or 15 kilowatt generator, you just got to make sure there's enough clearance around it so people can access it, and then you don't want to have it so far out where people are going to have to technically be on the other person's property to service it. You don't want to have it that close either, so.
I'm not sure I follow that, what do you mean?
If the access doors are not towards the house side,
The access doors of...
to the generator.
Of the generator,
Yeah,
okay.
there has to be at least 3 or 4 foot clearance for them to get in between there, so then you're pushing the generator out that much further.
Towards the property
Yeah.
But if you push it the other way and the doors come out the other way, you might be standing on somebody else's property, if you only have a 7-foot side yard on that side, then it's impossible to comply.
Yeah, but actually, I installed these things, so,
What's your experience with it?
they got lids pop off, the things completely pull apart in the position that they're in. So there's not like big swinging doors on these things. All your mechanics are right looking down on top of them. So it's not a, as far as,
What about the decibel levels? Do they...
no, they actually weren't quiet. They're in the casing, and the casing really muffles the sound, plus there's a muffler on it.
When they have the spec sheet, does the spec sheet reflect the decibel levels of these?
Yes, it does. And it also gives a minimum distance from the house, which is their desirable distance. I mean, these things can be within, I think it's almost 24 inches up close to the house on these things.
So they're supposed to be at least a 24-inch distance
Yeah.
between the house and
Yeah.
how large or wide are these generators typically?
Typically, you can get 48 inches by 24 inches. So basically like a standard, like a locker box or something like that. And depending on the size of the unit you get. I mean, if you go 8,000 or 10,000, you're obviously going to be changing the size on it. The ones we put on our, we just put it 8,000 in a couple weeks ago, and it's, I think it was 48 inches in length by 26 wide, and pretty much sat 24 inches off the house. on a combustible
So
wall.
would it be, you said what, 48 inches, Liz?
Yeah, that's your size. I mean, that's
Right,
your
no, I
overall
understand. I'm
size.
trying to figure the distance it would ultimately be from the footprint of the house based on the size of the unit. If the unit is 48 inches itself, and you have to move it out 1 or 2 feet, then you're already out there 5 or 6 feet.
Mhm.
This allows only 48 inches, which is 4 feet from the...
Yeah, okay, so I mean, that's where your problem
It may
lies
not
right
be
there.
workable.
Yeah, exactly.
What do you recommend in terms of installation?
I would, if
How
you-
far from the footprint of the house should this would be a maximum level that would still allow the placement of the generator without a lot of trouble in sending these matters to the zoning board?
I would say definitely within 6 feet.
6 feet,
Yeah.
so you would do
With-
72 inches?
Yeah, with the generator and the wall, I would say 6 feet would be enough to work that unit. If that's the question you're asking.
Well, that's a question, but then that would be right to the property line.
Yeah.
So, I mean, how do we feel about that?
Well, the exhaust is going to have to point away from the house. So if you bring it right to
It's
the
the
property...
noise, I think, that you have to be considered, but I don't know whether 1
Well,
or
it
2
puts
feet
off
is
a
going
lot
to
of
make a
heat.
difference. So
Yeah.
you say it should be 72 inches then?
Okay, John.
No, John?
Just specify as the manufacturer, states, in the planning phase of the instructions.
Yeah, I mean,
Every generator...
every generator is different on it. Yeah, exactly, every generator is different. Mayor's here, why don't we
Thanks.
have a seat
Thanks,
back?
Paul.
Yep, no problem.
So what's our pleasure
The
on this?
manufacturer's going to make a recommendation.
Going crazy?
So I just want something that's workable, yeah.
Do you want to eliminate the distance? Because if you're putting it in the side yard, the side yards typically are short no matter what. I mean, they can be anywhere from 4 or 5 feet to 7 feet in some instances. The distance between the footprint of the house and the boundary of the adjoining property.
I mean, typical installation on these things, it just varies all over the town of Bridge. I mean, we put some in the side yard, and there are, it really depends on the layout of the house, where you're sitting with that. So, again, going to the manufacturer specs on it, when we install them, being that it's not on a concrete pad, it's on a movable surface, you're pretty much flexible on where you want to go with it on some of these,
Well, if you allowed 72 inches, I think that would probably cover virtually most...
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, because anything
No, but
comes
then-
off the backyard.
Then you may not comply with the 15 feet from the adjoining residence, because if you have 2 7-foot side yards, you're not going to comply with that. So it would have to be in your larger side yard side.
Yeah.
Or in the rear yard.
Or in the rear yard,
Well,
yeah,
maybe that's what
exactly.
you do, you put them in the rear yard. I mean, is there a problem?
deck.
I think
Yeah.
in Alpine, they have them in the rear yard. And I mean, Alpine has a 2-acre minimum.
Yeah.
requirement. But I'm saying, even so, I mean...
But I don't know if people would want the generator right at their property line either. So, I mean, I think we need to look at it a little more.
Because, I mean, if you have a corner house, if it's on a corner lot, sometimes their side yard is essentially the longer yard, and their backyard is 7 foot from the next person's property lines. I've seen that in several corner properties.
What about, like, I'm on Kinderkamack Road, and my meter and my panel is in the front of my house, and I can only put a generator in my front yard.
Yeah, then you're getting into screening requirements.
You'd have to go to the zoning board, sorry.
But then you have a...
No generator for you.
It has to be screened with a fence, I mean, then you get...
Well, you gotta put, you know what,
So
we're
it gets to
probably
be
not
very
gonna have anything
complicated.
that's perfect here, but what I like to do is try to button it down and put it together. I mean, Paul says that generally you need 1 to 2 feet distance between the placement of the generator and the footprint of the building, I guess for fire code reasons. So, that being said, some of these generators have 14-inch diameter.
Yeah.
So already, if you add the 2 feet to the 48 inches, you're already
Past
6
the-
feet out. So you could be either on the property line or on someone else's property, or you'd have to move it to the back. I
Yeah.
mean, can't put it on someone else's property. I have no problem, we want to do 72 inches. I mean,
Do we have an ordinance governing, central air compressors?
No,
No.
they don't consider them, I don't think they consider them projections or accessory structures.
Yeah, and they operate completely different.
No, but what I'm saying is, they're probably going to be in the same area, and they generate noise.
But
Yeah, so-
typically AC units you can put right up against. the
Yeah,
house.
AC units, you can,
Yeah, no, I'm not talking about, how close it is to the house. I'm just
Yeah.
saying it's the decibel level more than anything, I
Well,
think, in
so if-
location.
If the decibel levels are comparable between a AC unit and the...
Oh, they're
gen-
not. I don't think they're comfortable.
no, these things
Well,
are
maybe
pretty quiet.
portable versus...
Yeah,
These things
the
are
new
really
ones are pretty
quiet.
quiet,
Oh,
yeah.
they're not?
Yeah, don't compare it to the ones out in
Yeah.
the buildings here. You gotta compare it to, you're talking 8,000, 10,000 units, they're, and they're self-contained insulated walls on it, so the noise is not, it's not like starting up your lawnmower. You
Oh,
know,
these
the-
are not portable generators?
No,
No, we're
these are
talking about the
permanent.
fixed.
So this ordinance wouldn't regulate portable generators?
No,
No.
it's accepted in the ordinance.
Oh, okay, because that's what I have, portable generator.
Oh.
It has wheels on it. It has wheels on it.
Well, what's your pleasure? You want to push it out to 72 inches? I would like to try to put it together if you...
Listen, I'm just going off the experience of installing them, I mean, as John said, every company has their own specs, Kohler and all these companies have their own specs, and you can bring them as close as you can. We try to get them as close to the house as possible.
Well, I think if you have 72 inches, you probably...
That's more than enough.
Yeah, but I
It's more than
I
enough,
think
you'll probably end up in
But then I
someone's
said,
side
you
yard.
can't comply on the short side of your side yard. You have to go to the deeper side, because if it's an 18-foot zone, it's 11 and 7.
Yeah.
So you can't meet that side. You're pushing it on the 11-foot side or the rear yard.
Well, the experience I'm
That's
going
the only way
to
to be able to do
is when we install these things, they're not done on a narrow side of the house anyway. If there's a person, if they're within 10 feet of the person or 15 of the person, we're finding another area. Because that's one of the things we're concerned
But
about.
it
when we
depends where their
install.
electrical panel is, too. They don't have to run...
No, you run right across the basement. You gotta
Yeah,
run
well,
there.
it's...
That's the options you have. I mean, it's just, these are the options that you face that, you're not going to be able to, I take my own home, I mean, I'm literally right up, one side of my house is about 4 feet from my property line, and then I got another 10 feet till the neighbor's yard. I couldn't even put anything on that side. It had to be all done on the other side. Your house, the same way. I mean, your house is a little different, but, you're pretty much taking on both sides. If you just, it's really, we don't find a lot of them going on the short egress side. It's usually done where it's either in the back, out of the way, or on the side that's serviceable.
Maybe it works, maybe we give it a try, see if it doesn't work, we'll amend the ordinance. Otherwise, we're going to be looking at this after the season's
I'd
over.
also be interested to see how many permits we did get and when they came in. If 90% came in after the hurricane...
I think they're going to come in this season. I think this is the season you want to install your generator, right?
It's like anything else, you got to rush on, then they stop.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not...
There's an electrical outage.
You got to rush on, and also...
I would like to see us adopt it, I mean, unless we have some, some really difficulty in doing it, at least so that we can get it. I can amend it and run it out, and check it out, we
What
can
has
check out...
been
the
Mark
distance.
Skirbitz's difficulties or problems with the installations thus far? Have there been issues that he's raised this?
No, I think he's done it based on his experience, he services a number of communities, and some of these ideas were his, and I just used the 15-foot from the adjoining building because I think that becomes relevant in terms of where you put them, for noise purposes,
Well, again, these aren't noisy, and you look at the times you're using, it's never a time when your neighbor has electricity and you don't. Generally, that grid's shot down, they're all going down at the
If
same
you want to
time.
reduce the distance, no closer than, I mean, to be 10 feet from your neighbor's house, I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, I just go back to, if you're using this, it's because
There's an emergency.
there's an emergency, and I would hope that everyone
Can understand.
can understand and get along, and your neighbor's not going to go,
Yeah, you gotta-
if anything, they're going to be mad because they don't have it and you do.
Exactly.
But beyond that,
Or the sound meter?
yeah, let's hope everybody can,
Most people are lending electricity. My neighbors lended me electricity. I know several people who have the permanent ones. They lended electricity, so...
Well, what's your pleasure? I mean, I think you have to make a decision on your thoughts on this. So
Give them 72 inches. I mean, if it goes into, what did you say, Ed?
I said, on most of our zone, the 75, the R1 zone, it's 18-foot side yard, 11 one side, 7 the other side. So you're pretty much eliminating that one side of anybody's house, unless they go for a variance.
and I know houses like mine, it's, like Paul said, it's about 4 feet.
Yeah.
I'm
From
4
the
feet.
building?
Yeah, I'm 4 feet off my property line, and maybe 8 feet total between me and my house and my
Yeah.
neighbor's house.
Yeah.
So maybe we reduce it. Want to reduce it? I mean, I think we ought to put something in place. That's my thinking here. At least see how
Because
it works.
I don't see why we're regulating it. I guess that's there's no reason why we're doing it at all. I guess that's what I'm saying. I mean, it's got to go through electrical review, it's got to go through zoning review. Now you're just adding another, I don't know what the genesis of the need to I guess that's my question. What's prompting this? If we don't do it for air conditioning units,
I
and we don't regulate portable
it's a quality of
generators.
life issue. I think people don't want these generators in the people's windows if you have other options.
Yeah, but by code, you can't do that
In the
anyway.
yard.
Yeah, it's not the same.
By code, you can't do that anyway. They're going to be certain distance from windows, and it's got to be certain distance from another building.
I don't
So-
think that's a code issue. I think it's a zoning issue.
No, it's a spec issue. When you install these things, they have to be a certain,
I mean, for fire code purposes?
just for operation specs. You know, when you put a unit in,
Right.
that manufacturer say, we need it right here, you can't be any other distance than that. If it extends that distance, then you're out of operation codes, which will then void your warranty on the system itself. So there's a whole other issue. When we sell these things, you know, we look at the surrounding areas, but we also give them the front line of saying, okay, if it's not installed in the proper area at a certain distance, your warranty is voided. And that's an issue that stop everything right up front. So, you're right, I don't think I'd really go crazy on micromanaging the distance from, because, you know, these things are really spec'd out when we go into see these jobs, and we figure out the best spot for them. And I know myself and other installers, we look at everything around it. You know, as far as bothering somebody too close to an area, servicing it. Servicing is the one area that we look on top. So
what's our pleasure? What's our pleasure on this?
we just eliminate it and just move on. I
I
mean,
don't know. All the towns I know are adopting them. I think the towns I deal with, Englewood Cliffs, the Alpine, all these towns are adopting ordinance.
2 acres zoning.
They may be a bit, they may be a bit snickety that, you know,
let's not make it a
we're
problem
not.
until a problem arises. I mean, this thing's- Yeah, let's not make it a
This is an
problem
Alpine.
until it kicks in.
I said 2 acre zoning, what did you hear about?
Yeah, I mean, really, yeah. It's the aesthetics of it, Mr. Mignon. The aesthetics in Alpine.
No, I think if it becomes a problem and we get complaints about it, then we change the ordinance, because, you know, you got to let the installer do the due diligence on it. I think that when you go ahead to install these things, you're taking every consideration that's around you when you put these things in. Noise level on these professional units, forget it. You can't hear them. You know, some of them sound like a car running. You know, it's just to really micromanage the distance is really going to just affect the people trying to get things done. So, I don't know, I would be...
What about people who have portables?
That's a whole different story. If you got wheels, you can't stop that.
We're not regulating it, we're exempting it.
Yeah, we're exempting
Our
it.
mayor's killing us on that one, right?
I know wheels, I have wheels.
Well, what do you want to do? Do you want to just scrap this?
Yeah.
You prefer to scrap it? Okay, so I'll give Mark the good news.
Some of
He's using his judgment well, I presume, so we have everybody come talking about
I mean, if we have
generators.
residents start to come up and complain and there's issues, then maybe we
That's
revisit
something,
it.
yeah, I would...
Right now, I mean, we haven't had any.
Yeah.
So just table it, we'll keep it in the file in case there's an issue, we can, it's all done. The ordinance is all done. Very good. Motion to table?
Yeah.
Motion to table?
Some of...
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstained? Okay. Are we up to number 2 on discussion?
Yes.
Sustainable New Jersey Small Grant Program.
Thank you, Mayor. If I may, Councilwoman Murphy brought this program to our attention. I should say again, it is a sustainable New Jersey program sponsored by PSE&G. They have 4 $20,000 grants available, 8 $10,000 grants, 22,000 capacity building grants available. We applied to this program in 2009 and 2010 and did not receive any funding, but we can make an application again this year. What I would do is reach out to the Green Team and the Environmental Protection Commission and see if they have any ideas that they would like promoted with this grant application. We have a resolution listed tonight for your consideration if you're so inclined to have us make application.
Mayor,
Yes.
this has been discussed already with the Environmental Commission and the Green Team. And Green Team's meeting again this Wednesday night to decide course of action with regard to this grant. My personal recommendation is we go for the $2,000 grant. I've been involved with this program on my professional side, and most of the towns getting the big grants are generally the South and Western New Jersey towns who are doing big planning efforts, revamping zoning laws and things like that. The $2,000 grants are meant for green teams to give them little startup money so they can get some activities going, and that's where the green team seems to be wanting to go. They went through a lot of effort the first time to get certified, and I know it was expressed by members of the green team they were disappointed that none of this funding has come through for the town. And based on the level of effort required for recertification, they've made it even more difficult. It's a point system. They've increased the points by 50% over the original certification. So there's a lot more tasks and efforts that need to be accomplished to get recertified. And so we have a subcommittee of the green team reviewing that to see whether we're going to recommend pursuing recertification. So the bottom line is we have a meeting Wednesday night. I'll have more information at the next meeting to see what the green team's position is. Environmental Commission, again, we're really just trying to get them reconstituted again. In fact, I've got some of the members attending the green team meeting. So both bodies are working together to address this at the same time.
Ed, you're going to be giving reports on the cleanup
Yes.
when we have the 8 o'clock meeting?
I could do that, yes.
No.
Yeah, I mean, this is because we're speaking to this grant, that's why I brought this up now.
Isn't our recertification application due like in June?
It's due by the end of the year.
The end of the year?
Yes.
Was it due earlier in June or something?
No, that's if you want to be recognized as the League of Municipalities, it needs to be earlier.
2 times.
Technically, it doesn't have to be until the end of the year, because it expires at the beginning of next year. And the level of effort required certification will be a lot.
All right. Okay. great.
Mayor, Resolution 12-192, which would authorize us to make the application, is listed for tonight.
Okay.
We could pass it, and if the green team decides not to go for it, we can rescind the resolution.
I would recommend we do that. I think they'll want to submit something, even if it's for the small grant.
Yeah, I just don't want to lose our certification in case we need to go out for grants where it's a requirement that we be certified. Okay, anything else on Sustainable Jersey Small Grant Program?
No, just for their information.
Number 3, dredging of the Hackensack River, New Milford River Edge and Oradell meeting.
Mayor, if I may, New Milford has reached out to us. They're going to have a meeting on Monday, June 25th at 11 a.m. in New Milford Borough Hall on the topic of the decreasing the flooding in the Hackensack River and issues surrounding dredging the Hackensack River. So we'll also cover the question of whether the DEP can order the United Water Company to lower the reservoir in advance of an event. My purpose in listing this tonight is just to make you aware of the meeting. If there are any elected officials that would like to attend this meeting, please let us know and we'll respond on your behalf. If no one is able to make it, I will make it a point to attend the meeting on behalf of the borough.
All right, I've already spoken to Mayor Sabrizi, and I plan to attend. If any other council member would like to attend, that would be great. I think there may be a representative there. I know that our state representatives and legislators have been invited. I think there's been an invitation out to the Army Corps of Engineers, who have already given some preliminary thought on the dredging of the Hackensack River. There's problems because it's not considered a navigable river because of the bridges that are down on what's that street in Hackensack that crosses over by the courthouse.
Yeah, a little street there?
Yeah, there's a little street there. They just did $23 million new bridge there to make it navigable. But then when you get up a little further, there's a bridge that's not navigable. So in order to bring barges in order to dredge the river, they'd have to, I don't know what they'd have to do. They have to do something because they could never get a barge up the Hackensack River. But it's a good thing for everybody to attend. I know that there's also legislation pending in Trenton to give authority to the Office of Emergency Management to direct the water company to lower their floodgates in anticipation of a storm. I don't know where that legislation has gone, if it's in committee, if it's out of committee, so hopefully we'll get an update on that at the same time as the meeting. Anything else? All right, we have a work session consent agenda, 4 items. Number 1 is to approve an amendment to ordinance number 1761, appropriating $6,000 for capital improvements. This is for traffic cones for the police department.
Yes, Mayor, if I may, we had appropriated $6,000 for traffic signs. The request from the department was for traffic signs and cones. So without appropriating any additional money, they would just like to use some of that to replace some of the traffic cones that they don't have anymore.
So that's just a clarification.
Yes, increasing the...
Number 2 is a resolution to authorize our tax appeal attorney, one of them, Mr. Spinello, to enter into a stipulation of a settlement in a particular case for calendar years 2010 and 2011. It doesn't look like there's much of a reduction. Maybe $13,000 between 2011 tax between 2010 and 2011. Any questions from council on that proposed settlement? Okay. Number 3 is a Clean Communities grant budget for 2012. That was a question also from Councilwoman Murphy, right?
Yes, our process is always to provide the mayor and council with the budget as proposed by the Department of Public Works. They have various brooms, dirt shoes, sweeper maintenance, trash liners, gloves, things of that nature that they would use the grant for. And as I've said, they usually would support the river cleanup, the participants, if there was a need for gloves or some other items.
So basically, the grant is approximately, what was it?
$15,600.
And the majority of the money is allocated to the DPW.
Correct.
And next is Resolution 12-192, supporting an assembly bill which would return some of the energy tax receipts to the various municipalities, which Alan can speak on, I can speak on. Maybe everybody knows about the legislation. Alan, you want to give us a little pointer on that?
Yes. These are taxes which at one time were collected by the municipalities, and through its history, the state decided to collect these taxes and refund them to the municipalities. There are 2 taxes really that are involved here, the energy receipts tax and what they call CUMTRA, or the Consolidated Municipal Property Tax Relief Act amounts. And the state aid impact on the borough of River Edge since 2001 has been a loss of close to $3 million that would have been turned over to the borough had the state not kept that revenue for other purposes. There is legislation to have the state return the amount of money that is due the municipalities on a phased-in basis, and that's what our resolution is tonight, to encourage the state to provide those much-needed funds to the borough.
All right. Basically, the energy receipts tax, I think, statewide collects more than $500 million, and the state has been keeping that money, and over the last few years, municipalities have become more vocal in their objection to the state keeping that money. Rather than deal, I think there was there pending litigation between the League of Municipalities and the state, or threatened? I think there was threatened litigation between the League of Municipalities and the state, with the state taking the position that there's no statute that says we have to turn the money over, and the state saying, and the municipality saying that money has been ours ever since the tax got created, and you're keeping it. So this legislation would codify that the money is properly should be allocated to municipalities, and as Alan indicated, there's a phase-in over a course of several years until we're back up to receiving 100% of it. So I would suggest that I would support everybody's vote in favor of that resolution. All right, the next, we have council reports, but on the 8 o'clock calendar, we have...
Do we need a motion on the consent?
Oh, okay. Do we have a motion on the consent agenda?
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstained? Okay. With everybody's consent, I'll put council reports off until the 8 o'clock meeting.
So moved.
I'm going to put my report off until after the liaison reports at the 8 o'clock meeting. We have 2 items for your information. One is complete streets. Alan, what is that?
Mayor, the New Jersey Department of Transportation announced the holding of several workshops around the state. Rob Costa and I attended about a 3.5-hour workshop at the county with the Department of Transportation. They are asking municipalities to provide a policy of endorsing what they call a complete streets policy. This is a policy whereby the municipalities would endorse safety for all those users of the roadway, not just vehicles, pedestrians, bicycles, handicap. You would be able to design your own policy. There are several advantages to doing this. There are federal grants or federal funds that now require a complete streets policy. There are points that are given for your state DOT grants. There may even be sustainable points that would be given for this as well. I provide you with an article from the League of Municipalities magazine that talks about this. If the council is so inclined, we would provide you with some draft policies or pro forma policies that you could look at and you could deliberate over before adopting one, if that's what you wanted to do. So we wanted to bring this to your attention. It's something to start to think about as the county DOT are looking at this, and more municipalities are signing on to the concept.
Alan, does the DOT have draft policies?
They have some from other towns. They can describe some elements that should go into it, so we can try and get you some models that you can take a look at.
All right. Any comments, Al?
No.
Paul? Do we think this is a good idea, a bad idea? Should we have Alan get us a draft policy so that we can review it?
I would. There's probably some elements that we can't do, being an older community, because a lot of it is, again, based on new designs. When you design new roads, make sure you have bike lanes and pedestrian features and things like that. But there might be other parts of the policy which might be good for us to adopt.
So is that in favor? Is that in,
Yes.
in the form of a motion?
Yes.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstained? Okay. Alan,
Thank you, Mayor.
We have work to do on that issue. Number 2 is a report on a bid for the ADA improvements to the municipal building.
Mayor, if I may, the borough had received a grant through Community Development Block Grant to provide electronic door access to both the Public Safety Building and Borough Hall. We hired an architect. We went out to bid. We had, I believe, 6 potential bidders who picked up the packet. But on the day of the bid, we received no bids. Denise surveyed those bidders to find out why they did not bid, and the result was some of them didn't realize that there was some concrete work or brick replacement work as part of the bid, and they weren't prepared for that. One had a subcontractor but couldn't get in touch with them. The other one just missed the bid date. After speaking with John Lynch, I've also reached out to the architect. What I'd like to do is separate out the concrete work and the brick work from the actual installation of the electronic devices, have the doors done, and then bring in a mason or whoever is necessary to have the ramps basically meet the new doorways. What I also did, since our deadline is June 30th of this year, I reached out to Community Development Block Grant and made a written request for an extension of the grant itself. And I have received in writing from the acting director an extension on this particular grant to December 31st of this year. So we do have additional time now to try and accomplish this task. So that's my recommendation, Mayor. If there are any questions, we have the superintendent here also as well. We can answer questions.
All right, so Alan's recommendation is to rebid the job, only bid out the door portion of it, and then after the doors are installed, to solicit proposals or, the concrete work, which is just removing the old pad and pouring a new pad. I think there's a difference between the old pad and the new one of maybe a half an inch, 3/4 of an inch, which may even fall below the bid threshold, and we could just give it to a local mason, maybe somebody right here in town.
Close.
So, do I have a motion to do that, to go out to bid on separating the mason work from the door work? Second?
Second.
All right. Any further discussion?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any abstain, any opposed? No. Okay, good.
Thank you, Mayor.
All right. All right, any unfinished business? Al?
Yes, ma'am. The resolution to create a special events committee,
Right.
it was reviewed by the Rec Commission,
Right.
and they had some changes. I don't know, Sam, I guess you drafted this, if you want me to just forward their changes that they proposed, but just so the council has a general idea as to what their concerns were. Their first concern was that any mention of road races be removed, as well as any type of River Edge turkey trot. The Rec Commission, I think, has a opposition to that type of event, as they feel it will conflict with the River Edge Run, or don't want an additional type of race being sponsored by the borough. They also asked that in terms of the recreation director being a member of the committee, they want it specified that she will be in an advisory capacity only. They don't want her doing any of the legwork. They feel as though she's their director, and her responsibilities need to be with the Recreation Commission as opposed to the Special Events Committee. They've also asked, and I've received multiple requests for this, that Memorial Day and the Veterans Day parades be removed from the resolution. The VFW has also asked for that, and the American Legion has asked that those be removed, as they're still doing those activities and don't want the Special Events Committee to handle those two parades. So I've been asked twice that be removed. They also wanted some language, or it was recommended that under the powers and duties, subsection B, that it reflect that monies raised will go into a Special Events Committee trust account and not into the general coffers. And I believe that was it, but I'll forward you the changes.
Mayor?
Yes.
Just for the record, I provided the recitals to the resolution. Councilman Bartoloni gave us the framework, and then Bobby Conway, the Recreation Director, made some additions to it. I don't believe Sam has had the opportunity to look at this yet. So
Yeah, I just got it today, so I'll forward it.
All right, Paul.
Just on unfinished business, I just want to pick up on where we left.
Wait a minute, before you get into something new, I thought you had a comment on...
Oh, okay, I thought you guys were done.
Yeah, I'm all...
Are we all done on special events? Anybody
Yeah, no,
else?
that's all I have on that issue.
On, just while special events is being discussed, I saw that in the draft that's being circulated, there was membership. I wanted to avoid the committee. I wanted the committee to be reflective of all the other committees that we have in town, in which a member of the council serves as a liaison to the committee, can attend a committee meeting, can participate in the committee meeting, is not a voting member of the committee, and can come back to the council and report the activities of the committee. The draft that's being circulated indicates that 2 members of the council would be members of the committee, and I guess that would mean that they would vote on things. And my opinion is that we want to avoid making the committee a political a political committee. So council people should not, in my opinion, you guys can outvote me. I don't even vote. But in my opinion, keep council members off the committee. Have them, anyone can be a liaison to the committee. Any council person can attend a committee meeting and make comments, but don't have them once you make them as voting members, then it becomes political. So,
Just,
yeah.
the reason it was drafted that way is currently the 2 council members who are on the 4th of July committee are the co-chairs of the 4th of July committee. So it's keeping that tradition. In fact, right now, at the 4th of July meetings, the council members run the meeting. They, so Bobby does not run that meeting, it's the council person runs the meeting, and that's why it's just in keeping with that, which seems to be the tradition, that it's 2 council people. Typically, if there's members of both parties on the council, both parties are represented in the chair people. So that's, that's the thought.
All right. And that was, our discussion was that we were going to use the same framework as the 4th of July committee.
Yeah, and that's where that comes from.
Okay, all right.
Now, this question.
Yeah.
The 2 people on the committee are Kathleen and...
Myself.
And Kathleen became co-chair because she was on the council, or she was co-chair before she was on the council?
No, because she was on the council.
Okay, and so we're just maintaining the tradition, or the practice?
Exactly. The year before that, it was Councilman Porco and John Cannon, and I believe it was the same the year before that. So,
And it's always been either side?
when there was members of both parties on the council, yes.
All right, good.
That wasn't the case for a few years, but my understanding, as long as there's been members of both parties, that's been...
All right, so Sam can review the resolution, make any suggestions or modifications. We can discuss it one more time, and we'll put it on for a formal resolution. All right. Anything else on the unfinished business, Paul?
2 things. I just wanted to bring up, or get back on the agenda, and I don't know if it's still out for bid, but the American Legion. What are we doing with that? Where's it going? And I know that we voted for the removal of it. Are we receiving the bids on that? Is that set? Alan?
Mayor, if I may, the RFP is out to environmental consultants to do a Phase 1 study. Those RFPs are due back on May 30th. So we'll report back the proposals that we get. You can make a decision on which consultant to make an award. You can have the Phase 1 done, and that would give a contractor the information they need to proceed with demolition once they know what the environmental issues are with the property, if any.
The other one would be the issue on Kensington with the fire siren. I just want to... I've been getting a bunch of letters from the committee that Kensington Committee has started. I know we sat down with the chief and went over this a couple times, and I just want to either bring a meeting in front of the council so we can get, stuff, get things moving forward, get some answers so everyone can hear what's going on. We had a couple good meetings, but it seems with our busy schedule, everyone just kind of, it kind of goes away, and the people who keep up on are basically we do keep getting letters from the Kensington group. And what I want to do is I just want to they're going to come up, I know the fire department's going to come up, and either we have a discussion of what we can do about this again, about the siren itself, and I just want to at least get that on the schedule in the next couple weeks.
All right, I also got a letter from Elizabeth Valella, and I don't know if the other members of the council got it. I think you did, Paul, but did you get all the attachments also? I mean, there's got to be 30 pages here of
I got all it.
reports and studies about how noise pollution above 85 decibels is harmful, and requesting action. So I agree with Paul that it's got to be studied. We have to study this more. We have to have schedule another meeting, see if anything else could be done. I know that the decibel level was reduced. I know that the cycles were extended. I don't know if the overall length of the siren is longer than before. I think that there's... Did we turn on the one on Van Zorn? Was that turned on, Chief? Do you know?
I'm sorry?
Van Zorn, is that siren turned on? Do you know?
No.
I know there was talk of that. There was talk of putting a baffle on
Main Street.
the one on Main Street. So let's schedule a
Yeah, I just want to just get it, I know we've had productive meetings, and, you know, it's just, we're getting a lot of questions from the Kensington group, and it's just,
No, I've gotten them. I've gotten
Yeah.
maybe in the last 2 weeks, I've gotten 6 to 8 emails from different people on Kensington.
yeah, I just want to get this out where everyone can participate in the question of it, and then if we got to go back into private session again with the FD, and then we'll go from there.
All right.
Mayor, just a point of clarification, so we will schedule this for the next available work session. I think our next work session, we're doing interviews for planners, so it may not be possible for that, but probably for the first meeting in June, we can schedule this for discussion.
That's fine.
Yeah, but before the first meeting in June is when?
June 4th?
Yes.
You know, I think before we meet, this committee has to meet again with representatives of the fire department.
Okay.
See if they can come to any sort of resolution short of the council taking, action. Okay, thank you, Mayor.
Mayor?
Yeah.
One more item?
What?
One more item?
Yeah.
Alan's mentioned we were having an interview scheduled for planners, but I know that we also asked our redevelopment attorney for their recommendation. I believe they did recommend a firm, Phillips Price Shapiro. I've worked with them too, and they do a lot of redevelopment work. They came recommended by our redevelopment attorney. I don't know why we should pursue interviews with 6 or 7 other planning firms. We got a good recommendation from our attorneys, and we keep putting these things off, and nothing is getting started. We have issues with transit, we have issues with the redevelopment, we have some planning board issues to come up with respect to overnight hours, with respect to outside dining. These are things that we need assistance of a planner to get moving on. So I recommend that we just go with our attorney's recommendation and contract with Phillips Price Shapiro.
Well, why don't we do this? Since we have a recommendation from the redevelopment attorney, why don't we have the one recommendation come in for an interview?
Okay,
Yeah.
that's fine.
Can we set that up?
But we have them all set up, so
Yeah, so I mean, yeah.
we'll just bring in the one if that's what you decide. No problem.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you, Ed. I mean, it's similar to the generator. I mean, coming to the HVAC, let's get the guy we recommend in there. Let's not drag it out.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll do that. Do we have a motion and a second?
I'll make a motion.
Is there a motion for that, to set up an interview with the recommended planner?
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstained? All right, good, thank you. Any new business?
I was just going to comment on that. You may want to see if you can get the principal to come in from Phillips Price, and that would
Paul
be
Phillips.
Paul Phillips.
Yeah.
He's seems to oversee all their projects. I think we want to hear from him. Do you agree?
Yes.
Okay, anything under new business? I'd like to raise, I guess, a couple of items under new business. One is, I don't know if you were contacted yet, Sam, by Arthur on the planning board as to 24-hour operation.
I spoke to him today only because I got a number of emails on that whole application, and I wasn't sure exactly what had occurred or happened, and I saw one where someone said, Arthur, in the note to me, indicated that I rendered a legal opinion as if it was a formal opinion, which wasn't the case.
Yeah.
Yeah, my understanding in that regard was that the application was approved. This is on 7/11.
Yep.
We do have an ordinance in place. I'm not sure whether that ordinance needs to be modified. That ordinance has serviced the borough, and I think it's never been a major issue. It does require that if you are in the retail industry and you're open beyond 11 p.m., there are two requirements. One, you have to have two individuals there between 11 and 5 a.m., okay? And secondly, you need some type of security system in place. So I don't see that to be an impediment to the operation of 7-Eleven, in my opinion. I think it's a safety issue. It's important for security of the person who's working in the store, as well as our police who have to maybe respond to an alarm. So I think the importance of having two people at that late hour may be very important, in assuming 7-Eleven will be open 24/7. It very well may be, especially if it's a franchisee.
Well, they indicated that they want to be open 24 hours.
Yeah, well, I don't see it as a problem. We have two of them.
Well, the issue is, this council has to decide if it's appropriate public policy for if we want businesses in our town to be open 24 hours, other than the ones like the River Edge Diner, which is already grandfathered in. So if the council feels, if the majority of the council feels we should allow 24-hour businesses, then we have your opinion that the ordinance only requires 2 employees and a security system. If the council feels that they should draw a line and restrict 24-hour operation, then the ordinance should be amended so that it's clear that 24-hour operation is not approved.
Well, I don't think there's an issue of grandfathering on this. It's not. I don't think it's a zoning issue where maybe the grandfathering would be permitted. So, I mean, if you're going to amend the ordinance, it's going to affect the River Edge Diner, because there are cases. There was one in Palisades Park within the last 2 or 3 years where they attempted to curb the operation of restaurants in Palisades Park, but did allow the diner to remain open, and it was a lawsuit that was filed in the Superior Court. So I think that if you're going to restrict the hours of operations, it's going to apply across the board, because you do have an ordinance. You can legislate that, and if we feel that business establishments, whether in the food industry or in the pure retail industry of selling merchandise, should not be open, I think it's going to apply to all businesses in the borough, so you really have to think through that very carefully. It's not been a problem, and we've had, what's this, Carousel, I think, in the shopping center, they open 24/7?
No, they close at 11, but I think
11?
the Dunkin' Donuts is open.
Dunkin' Donuts.
Dunkin' Donuts, River Edge Diner, and
24/7.
McDonald's, 24/7.
But I thought that's a good question that you raised, the McDonald's, because I believe that I don't know if it's true or not, but I heard that. What?
Just the drive-through.
Just a drive-through. Wasn't there recently some enforcement action or something against the McDonald's for 24-hour operation? No? All right.
No, and
I
I
heard
think
something about
7-Eleven relied on that reading of the ordinance, that it was permitted when they did their application, and the planning board did approve it, subject to them complying with the current ordinance.
Yeah, I
So-
think the ordinance has served the community well. I think you have to also look at the law enforcement officers who may have to respond to an alarm.
Yeah.
I think that becomes very, very relevant in case you do have an armed robbery or anything like
I
that.
mean, McDonald's is open 24 hours, but it's just a window, right? Just a window opens and you get your stuff and you pay your money and that's it. There's no...
If I may, I just recently read the ordinance, and I also believe there's a paragraph in there saying that exact change between that period of like 11 and 6. In other words, they don't want them to have a lot of money.
That's for gas
Those gas
stations.
stations.
Yeah, it was for
Yeah.
gas stations. I think
The
that
whole
was
thing was-
restricted to gas stations.
The only ambiguity was really in the ordinance was whether everything other than the 2 employees related to anything but gas stations.
Yeah.
The way it was written, it seemed like it only referenced gas stations, and that may have to be changed so that the security measures
I didn't
reflect
construe
all
it that
businesses.
way. I didn't construe it that way.
Yeah.
I mean, the way I read it was that you needed, if you had any business operation in the borough, you would need 2 employees.
But the
to
Dunkin'
service
Donuts
it.
has, you have to go in and there's no drive-through there,
Yeah.
so.
It's face-to-face, 24 hours?
Yeah, there's no drive-through at the Dunkin' Donuts.
Alan?
We have to go into
Unless you
a
get
public
curbside.
meeting right now. We can come back to work session.
Okay. All right, I can call the 8 o'clock meeting to order. If we can all stand for a silent prayer. If Councilman Papaleo can lead us in a salute to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, the New Jersey